Hi everyone, welcome to Science Friday with the Trustees Claire Saltonstall Education Program. I'm Molly, the Island's Education Manager here on Martha's Vineyard with the Trustees. The Trustees is Massachusetts' largest conservation and preservation organization with 118 properties throughout the Commonwealth. So for today's lesson, we will be studying topographic maps and contour lines. You will be even making a topographic map out of Playdough, and we'll get to that in a bit. This lesson is designed for grades 5 through 8. In order to follow along with me today, you'll want to gather these few materials. You will need a pencil, a plain piece of white paper, a piece of fishing line. This is a bit hard to see, but a strong piece of string or line. So fishing line is perfect for this, just a piece of it. And finally, Play-Doh. A ball size, just a hand sort of ball size shape of Play-Doh is perfect. Okay, so to start with, let's take a look at different types of maps and understand what is a topographic map. So here we are with 5 different types of maps. What we're going to do to understand and learn about these different types of maps and then really focus on topographic maps is match a definition written here with the picture, and then we can place that map onto our board to fill in these spaces. So we're looking for a landform map, a climate map, a population map, a topographical map, and a political map. Those are our 5 types of maps we're going to learn about right now. So our first definition says, a map showing government borders between countries and states, as well as the location of capitals and major cities. So let's focus on a few of those key words. We're looking for a map with government borders between countries and states, as well as capitals and major cities. So if we look closely at some of these maps, are we seeing government borders here, cities and countries listed? This is of the United States. Not seeing really many cities. We have Washington, D.C., but otherwise, this looks a little bit different. This one, we're not seeing any government borders or capitals and major cities listed. This map, we have the whole world here. It's a little hard to see some of the writing, but we're seeing borders and boundaries of different countries in all different colors. You can see in Africa there. And it looks like, if we look close, we can see some labels of the country and capitals. So based on that, do we think this is our map showing government borders between countries and states, as well as the location of capitals and major cities? I think so. But then we have to figure out what type of map is this exactly, and where does it fit on our board? Is it a landform map? Is it a climate map? A population map? A topographical map? Or a political map? Think about that for a minute, and then I'll place it on the board. It is a political map, showing those borders between different countries and states. Okay, we've got our first map on our board. Let's move to our next definition. We're looking for a map with areas shaded in proportion to the population of those areas. So a map with areas shaded in proportion to the population of those areas. Key word on this one is population. So we've taken a look already at this map. There's definitely shading here, but it doesn't look like it's necessarily based on population. This map, we're not seeing any shading based on population. This one, what we have to look at closely here is the key at the top. I see it says main climates, precipitation, temperature. So this means these colors aren't necessarily telling me population. I think that map is telling us something different. Then we have this map. And this is saying inhabit per square mile. And these colors, less than 1 to 19, 20 to 29, this looks like a population map. So areas shaded in proportion to the population of those areas. So this one's a little bit easier to place on our board because we know we're looking for a landform, climate, population, topographical map. Here we are with a population map. Okay, 3 more to go. Next, we're looking for a map depicting the prevailing weather patterns of an area. Key word here is weather. So if we recall, this map in the key showed us precipitation, temperature, main climates. So this looks like our weather patterns that it's showing on this map. So on our board, is this map a landform map, a climate map, or a topographical map? If you said climate, you're correct. So there's our climate map. Okay, next one. A map with contour lines to depict elevation as well as labels for roads, cities, and other physical characteristics. The key word here, or 2 words, are contour lines. And we're going to talk about what contour lines are a little bit later in the lesson, but let's look at these 2 maps. Can we see anything on either of these maps that look like, if you could guess, what are contour lines? Are you seeing any contour lines? This one here, we see quite a few lines. So my guess would be those are the contour lines, and this is the map we're looking for. Now, is this a topographical map or a landform map? Those are the 2 left on our board. This map with the contour lines is a topographical map. And this is the map that we are going to be studying specifically today. So we can place that on our board on topographical. And then finally, we have our last but not least map here with our definition. A map showing the natural and physical features of the Earth's surface, such as mountains, valleys, plains, etc. So the physical features of the Earth's surface. So you can see this map is showing the Rocky Mountains, the Great Plains in the US, the Appalachian Mountains here on the East Coast. So all different landforms. So this then is our landform map. Great. Now we know these 5 different types of maps. Let's take a closer look at what exactly a topographical map is and what those contour lines are telling us. So here we are looking at a topographical map of Menemsha Hills Reservation in Chilmark on Martha's Vineyard. If we look at this map, we can see lines on the map. These are contour lines. Can you take a guess what contour lines are telling us and what they're representing on this map? If you said elevation, then you're correct. So if we zoom in a little bit closer, we can see there are a few numbers that are associated with the contour line. So over here, I see 200. Over here, 250. And up here at Prospect Hill, 300 at this line. So what these lines are showing us is what the elevation is at that point. And we can follow these contour lines in a circle as it winds around, and it follows the landform. So the topography of that land are represented by these contour lines. So we know when we start at Menemsha Hills and when we get here on the Harris Loop, right about here, we are going to be at 200 feet. And then as we climb higher and higher up to Prospect Hill, we eventually get right around 300 feet or 308 feet. So let's look closely here at Prospect Hill, because not every contour line is labeled with a number. So this line says 250 feet. Then there's a line here that goes all the way around in a circle and joins back together. Another line, another line, another line, another line, but this line here is labeled at 300 feet. So can we figure out what each line represents? How many feet is it between this line and this line in order to reach 300 feet from 250? So let's count our lines. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 lines to go from 250 to 300 feet. Can you guess then, based on that, knowing there are 5 lines and we're going 50 feet, what does each line represent in feet? Each line is showing us another 10 feet, right? 50 divided by 5 is 10. So if this line's 250 feet, this one is 260, and then 270, 280, 290, finally 300. And that's what we can look at on the entire map. So we know this line is 200. So the next line coming up in elevation would be, this would be 210 feet all along here until we get up to 250 feet at this line. Okay, so now let's take a look at another part of the property, because these contour lines aren't just telling us what the elevation is, but they also tell us how steep it is in an area versus how flat it is. So here we are at Cobblestone Beach. We can see that we have a 50-foot elevation contour line labeled. So we know from 50 feet, it goes up another 10 feet to the next line. So 60 feet, 70 feet, 80 feet, 90 feet, and then 100 feet is here labeled. But look closely at these lines. Do you see how close together they are? Do you think that means it's a very steep area of Menemsha Hills, or is it more flat? So think about each line represents another 10 feet. So if those lines are closer together and we're seeing a jump in elevation just from here to here with 40 feet, then do you think that is going to be a steep area? If you said yes, then you're correct. So this area here with our contour lines close together, right along the cliff edge of Menemsha Hills, is quite steep. And we know that because the lines are close together. When we move out to this area of Menemsha Hills, the lines are much further apart. So the change in elevation between this line to this contour line is 10 feet. But look at the distance there compared to over here. So it's going to be much more gradual and not as steep when you're hiking. So when you look at a topographic map before heading out on a hike, you can understand what part of the trail might be more steep and what part might be more flat. Looking at our trail here of Menemsha Hills, what area and what part of the trail is steeper? It looks like, again, we're looking for these contour lines very close together. If we follow this black trail, the overlook and down to the beach, that's a pretty steep area there. And a little bit over here as well, as we follow the edge of a contour line and then down to the beach. Definitely steeper here. So when you're deciding to head out and you're looking at this, you might say, oh, if I want an easier walk, I know the Harris Loop here is going to be a little bit more flat and gradual because those contour lines aren't as close together. Okay, so now that we have a sense of what a topographic map is and what it looks like, and we understand a little bit more about contour lines, we are now going to complete our fun activity with Play-Doh. So we'll move on to that activity next. Okay, now for the fun part, we get to play with Play-Doh. So I have my Play-Doh here. You just need a ball-sized shape like this is fine. And what you're going to do is form your Play-Doh into a small mountain or volcano, but we want this mountain or volcano to have a high point and maybe a little bit of a change in elevation in another area or spot of the mountain. So it doesn't have to be a perfect volcano because it might not make our map as interesting, and you'll see that in a minute. So take the time to form your hill. I think I'm going to try to have a little bit of a flatter bottom down here without sticking too much. Maybe a little side over here comes up, and then a peak there. Okay, once you have your hill formed, I've just put mine in a tray, but you're going to move yours, if it isn't already, onto your white piece of paper. So once it's on your white piece of paper, you're going to take your pencil and make an outline of the base of your hill and mountain. So I'll just outline the entire thing. Okay. Now this next part is important. When you're done with doing the outline, we want to make a line of dots down one side of the mountain and bring that down to our piece of paper here. So what I'm going to do with my pencil is just do dots down, a line of dots all the way down to my paper, and make a mark here so that it all lines up from the top of my mountain all the way down. And you'll see in a minute why this is important. Okay, so you should have your line of dots there and a nice big mark on your paper so you can see that. Now we'll take our fishing line and we are going to start making contour lines. So slicing through our Playdough mountain. The easiest way to do this, we'll start with at the base. So I put my thumbs behind my mountain just for a little bit of leverage and make a slice all the way through as even as I can. Oop, and it's okay if your mountain moves a little bit, and then I can just kind of take it and pull that fishing line through. Now you can separate this. So we have our base piece. You want to make sure you remember which piece is which. So we'll line them up on our piece of paper. So that's the base of our mountain. Okay, let's make another slice and try to do about the same thickness. Okay, so there's the next slice. And keep doing these slices all the way to the top. Next one. Oop, that went a little high there. Okay. I almost sliced that a little wonky, but that's okay. So that's the next one. Then this one. It gets a little bit trickier at the top, but just take your time. Try to keep that even slice if you can. Okay. There's, oops. That one sort of sliced through a little bit, but I'll make sure it stays together. There's that one. And then we have our top. I think I'll just get one more slice out of it here at the top. There's this piece. And then maybe we'll slice this one in half too, just because to make these pretty even. Okay, so now we have all of our slices all lined up. And what we're going to do is take each slice and trace it back on our paper. So we've already traced our base. Next up, we want this slice. And remember, look for the little dots. So I see my little dots are there that we made earlier. I'm going to line up those dots with my mark I already made on my paper. And then trace around your next piece. And this is going right inside of my base piece. Trace around that. There, perfect. That can go right up, back up on top. The next one, I'll look on the edge. I see my dots here. So again, going to line those up and fit it inside of that piece that I've already traced. So my dots are lined up. I can now trace around here. Okay. And you're going to keep doing this for each piece. Sometimes a little bit, I can see my dots there. And fit that into this piece here. Okay. Okay, our next piece, look for my little dots right there. It's okay if some of your lines are overlapping, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay. Now this piece, where are my little dots? There they are. Line that up again. this one. There's my little dot. And then finally this one. It goes right inside of there. So now, what you've just done is you've made a topographic map with your contour lines. So these lines are the contour lines, and remember what we said earlier, the closer together the lines are, the steeper it is, and the further apart they are, the more flat that elevation is. So let's take a look now. What you can do is take your base of your mountain, put it right next to your map, and then put it back together. So you can line up your lines, your little dots on the side. As best you can, just put each piece back on top of each other. Where's that line? There it is. And this one. And finally that. And this little top. Oh, maybe that goes that way. Now, you can take a look and compare your map with your 3D Playdough mountain. Do we see the steep elevation change on the sides here? Right? Imagine if you were climbing this mountain, that's quite steep coming up the sides, a little bit flatter at the base. That's the difference between these two contour lines, are a little bit further apart than these ones, and then definitely these ones. It gets very steep. And that makes sense, as it's a little bit more gradual here. And then if you were trying to scale this mountain, you'd have to be a good rock climber to go straight up pretty much all the way to the peak. Then we can also see there's this flat area here without contour lines, because right here is actually fairly flat, right? And the same on this side, a little bit more of a flat area, and then it gets very steep as we come up to the hill. So thank you so much for joining me today to learn about topographic maps and contour lines. I hope that you had fun creating your own small mountain and topographic map. I'd love to see anything that you created, so please share any photos of your maps on this video in the comments section. You can find other lessons just like this one and activities to do at home at thetrustees.org/at-home. So the Trustees is a nonprofit organization. This means that we rely on people just like you and your friends and family for support. So I encourage you to become a member of the Trustees, or renew your membership, or donate at this time. And you can do so by simply going to thetrustees.org/join us. I look forward to seeing you next time.